We'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. This is a regular meeting of council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in council chambers at 216 Main Street, Swan River, Manitoba's 8th day of October 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, councillors Brian Burick, Kushniryk, Carrie, Blosha, Byron, Zbirun, and Terry Neely. Unfortunately, as we'll hear in a moment, we do have one absence tonight. Our CAO, Kristi, Ronnquist, is here, and our videographer, Jeremy Bergen, joins us as well. We will start at 1.2, notice of absence. Be it resolved, the notice of absence submitted by Councilmember McGregor regarding the regular meeting of council held this 8th day of October 2024 shall be accepted as received. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely. Anyone second? Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Number 2, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 8th day of October 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha. Is there anyone who wishes to second? Councillor Burick. Additions, changes, discussion on the agenda for tonight. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Heading to number 3, be it resolved the minutes of the regular council meeting held September 24th, 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, and someone to second? Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the minutes are attached to the agenda for council and the public to see. Has everyone had a chance to look through them already? Are there any errors or omissions that you've noticed in the minutes? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Let's go to 4.1, General Cheques. I see the Finance Department has worked hard again to have a very, very long resolution. Here we go. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General Cheques number 20049 to 20081 in the amount of $64,211.75. and pre-authorized debit number 2024-021 to 2024-024 in the amount of $4,909.70, and credit card payment number 2024-045 to 2024-048 in the amount of $1,135.27 for a grand total of $70,256.72. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely. Does anyone wish to second the resolution? Councillor Blosha. As you may have guessed, we have a copy of the checks and invoices. Who has questions? Councillor Blosha.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
Well, I kind of expect you to come up with something. So.
Yeah, it's 266 MRVs. I know what it's for, I just wonder what do we need another one for?
It is for a cell booster, as you may have guessed.
Yeah.
Does it happen to say Unit 60?
Is it a new Ford truck?
I believe that's a new Ford truck, isn't it? The half-ton we just bought.
Okay, but we had in the old trucks not be able to just move them?
Well, I thought we moved the one from 38 to something already.
I don't know.
I'm just not sure.
I just thought, gee, there's another one. Why do we need another one when one or two trucks are down?
Booster in the like the 550, it probably never had one.
Maybe.
And maybe it got put in there.
I know they stripped everything else off of 38. So if it had a cell booster.
Yeah, that cell
moved the
booster
radio
would
and
have come
everything.
out.
No, it was just a question why we needed another one.
The only answer I can give right now is Unit 60, but if you want, we can.
No,
look into it.
that's fine. I just wanted. I thought, did one fly away or what?
I don't think so. I think it's.
Okay, and 2024-020-022. That's a MasterCard payment. Doesn't really break it out. It just says payment. I wonder what that's for. 3,729.08.
I agree.
It should be broken down a bit.
Yes, usually it is. Do we have the, by chance, statement easy to get? I wonder.
It's not that I don't want to pay it. I just would like to see it broken down.
Okay, we'll just take a peek and see if it happens
Yeah,
to easy
it's-
grab. If not, we'll get it for you for next meeting, but.
No,
If
just
it's
it'd be
sitting there
nice to
easy,
see
we'll
it
get it.
broken down because, like,
And usually it is. because lots of times you see them broken out into individual account numbers, I'm not quite sure why this one isn't.
Like, and because is it, because they used to use it at the highway service or whatever, but I see that's not the case because that's in its own separate here.
Well, you see, this one credit card, this is the breakdown, but it's not for all of them, so there's something that hasn't got on there.
Yeah,
This
because
is
you
only
said the one was
$1,100
$1,100, yeah, this is
Yeah.
3,700, so.
I know the question was asked to me a little while back as to, should they all be broken out, and I said, yes, they should. And the later ones are, so I wonder if something's happened to that one. Okay, anything else?
No, that was it.
Anybody else have questions? Byron or Councillor?
257.
57.
It's a small amount, but what's that for? Should that be in camera discussion or no?
257, DD West LLP. The auditors asked that we ask DD West LLP for an update on the status of a lawsuit between Swan Valley West and myself. And this is the fee charged for them to write a letter saying there is still a lawsuit because it hasn't been signed off on yet.
Okay, between who?
Swan Valley West and me.
Which one are we talking about?
The one that I probably need to leave for. You guys have some discussion on it. There is the thing. You chair the meeting. So Kristi gets back, she will tell you all about it.
I didn't mean to start anything up. Oh, it never ends, eh?
I don't have a statement.
Kristi, you have one?
That's okay. Now, Brian brought
Are
up,
you done, Carrie?
yeah, actually, it was fine, I just wanted to see it in,
Sure, I'll get her to break that down.
yeah, just to see where that went, because in reality, we are responsible for where it
Yeah,
went, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, Reeve Gade left the chair and he said that you would explain to us this
DD West.
DD West LLP check for some lawsuit.
It's 400, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an update for what they've been doing for us on the lawsuit. Not sure which one.
You said between
Went
Swan Valley
with-
West and Gade. So is that the old one?
I think so.
The old one. So it's not done yet? It's not
I
done.
can't even say so, I'm not sure.
So what's the 448 for a letter for what?
DD West is not the one for the new one. The new one has a different lawyer for it.
You know anything about that? So that's all you can release.
So this is the above noted matter. Oh, this is to him though.
Okay, so it's not against Gade then, or is it? I thought he says, didn't he say it's between Swan Valley West and Gade? So that isn't really then.
Can I see?
I don't think it's the new one.
You said it was through, from Swan Valley West and
Okay.
before.
We're
No, I
talking,
thought that was all signed off on.
Yeah, there's a different name on here.
Is that the prosecutor thinking that there's still something to go on this or what?
Was there a request for that 448?
Audit response letter.
Do we have to pay it until we find out more information? We have to pay it.
Well, we can inquire, it doesn't have to be signed and sent until you're
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Right, but wouldn't you say so?
This doesn't explain much.
Yeah, but that's just because everything's still under his name.
It's under his name here.
Yeah.
I think it's addressed to him.
Oh,
because
addressed
he
to
worked
him,
here.
oh, okay.
That's just like you'll see
Okay,
another
yeah,
thing
yeah,
here where
yeah.
Kristi's name is handwritten on it.
Yeah.
So I see we don't pay that check until we find out
I'll find
what
out.
it's really all about
Sure.
and why they're requesting that for. And it's easy.
Well, I think we gotta pay them.
No.
We would have requested these people, right? Somebody else asked us to get this letter and we got it,
Yeah,
so we asked them to do the work.
Yeah, it's an audit on
Yeah.
work that has been done. Review and
So you feel comfortable it should be
revisions of
paid then?
audit response
so.
letter.
I'd like more information on it though, but if it's okay with council, they wanna pay it, we'll pay it, but there should be more information on it. But it's easy to send an audit letter with what about all that. I thought that was done with years ago. Okay, Kristi,
Yeah.
just. Hey, Bill, come on in.
What's next?
we didn't pass the resolution to pay the checks.
Any other questions on checks? I think part of the answer, we didn't immediately find the statement.
It's fine, I just would like to see it broken down.
I think what may have happened is Lois was away yesterday though.
Totally
So it
fine,
could be
yeah.
that why it's
No,
just
totally
not there
fine,
for
like,
you.
it's not a huge amount by any means, but it's just
Yeah.
nice to see, like, well, was it for parts, was it for fuel, what was it for, like?
What I found there, I'm not sure it's the right one, the mine levy was on it for Alpine Pit. So that-
Okay.
if that was the right page I was looking at, that's a lot of it.
Yeah,
but
no.
We're gonna find out for sure, because I
Yeah.
don't wanna guess.
Nope, that's fine.
Okay, any other questions? So I'm back under the theory that that check is less than $500. That's why I'm here, otherwise you'd be passing this over me. Yes, Councillor.
We agreed to pass it,
Oh, you
but I wanted an explanation for it, for whenever, next meeting or whenever she gets for it. What's the explanation for it?
Okay. You remember to do that for him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Very
it
good, thank you
here.
much. Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Payroll checks, maybe less drama. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 572 to 588 in the amount of $28,051.32. Someone that would wish to move the resolution. Cool. All right, so Zbirun and Blosha for that. A copy of the payroll checks are attached. Little bit of detail there if you have questions. The first one you may well have a question about. So that is the finalization of what we discussed in camera for some time about a union grievance related to the holiday days. So after much going back and forth, we have settled that with a payment. The employee demanded it be processed as regular payroll instead of as a settlement payment, so that EI and all of those wonderful deductions would be done on it, and it would also adjust their pensionable earnings. So that's why you're seeing it on the payroll thing instead of just a check like normal. Any other questions about those checks?
That's the question I had.
Okay.
Mine too.
Very good. Hearing nothing else, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. For indemnities, number 4.3, it be resolved the Council of the Municipality of Swan West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for September, number 4622 to 4630, in the amount of $9,709.23. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, can someone to second the resolution? Councillor Neely. Copy of the indemnities are attached as well. I see it's just a summary here. Do you folks want the better explanation one? We can get you that longer form.
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
September, when did the LUD meet? And where?
It's normally the third Tuesday.
It was the third Tuesday, but I was away on holidays that week, so I kind of screwed up. So it was on me, we met just kind of by email, phone, and then talked afterwards.
Because there's no notice on the door.
I was in Calgary.
So are there any minutes for that meeting? Did like it get called to order and get resolutions
I
and such?
don't know that Joyce did anything official for it.
So who chairs it?
Joyce.
So was, how do I nicely ask this? Were you the only one away?
Well, Holly's with me.
Oh, so you didn't have a quorum. So there wasn't a meeting.
No, it was just done that way. I didn't put anything on my indemnity. I didn't ask for nothing for that.
So I wonder if that should get picked up. Because essentially they missed a meeting.
For everyone,
Yeah,
yeah. Like they have to note
because
it's
they need
missed
to have a
meeting.
meeting. Yeah.
Like
Did-
Brad
but
doesn't,
Are we
Brad
essential
doesn't,
to it any different than if we move one here and we cancel like a December 20th meeting?
If you're canceling, there should be a notice on the door.
Yeah, ideally, there'd be some notice.
Cheryl went and talked to Holly about whatever, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days before the meeting, said that she was gonna be there. She wanted to talk to the girls and yourself. And nobody let her know there's no meeting, but not when she went there. She waited there for half an hour and nobody showed up.
Well, that's totally on me because I had that week booked off. Saturday, Sunday, I stayed home. Monday, we're in the yard doing yard work. And about noon, I said to Holly, I said, I'm out of here, we're going to Calgary. And spur of the moment, and I texted Joyce, I'm like, God, I completely forgot. And that's no excuse, but it's the best I can offer you.
Okay.
So, on the LUD front, like missing a meeting, we can cancel council meeting, they can cancel LUD meeting, but they should actually cancel it, right? So it would be good if at the next one there was something, some resolution dealing with that. I don't know what happens to the indemnities after that. I haven't cast my brain to that right now until I read the bylaw, 'cause I'm not used to that section of it, if there's a missed meeting fee or not. But, obviously there's someone who'd like to meet with you, could you guys pick that up sooner rather than later? And see if you could find, like you have a special meeting when Cheryl's available, you guys get together and talk, right?
Yeah,
That might be doable, rather than her
Yeah,
waiting
yeah.
another several weeks for
Yeah,
an
or-
LUD meeting.
Yeah,
That would be, at least solve that part of the
Yeah.
problem.
yeah. And there you go again. I mean, she's busy now with Saskatchewan elections, so
Yeah.
you might not see her now for, like I said, a month. So like, don't make a special meeting and because like she's working late hours and like I said, and things like this. So she may not see you till after the election.
Yeah.
Or contact Holly and find out again. So, but I just wanted to say that there was no notice, no nothing, no anything on,
Unfortunate.
well, she didn't have 10 miles to drive or 20 miles or anything, but still,
Yeah. Well, you never know, there might be somebody else, you don't know who's planning it.
well, that's right.
I haven't peeked into it lately to see how Joyce is doing with like minutes and things, but we should at some point take a peek into how that's working out and make sure that there's actual minutes happening and stuff now. In our list of things to do, we should just make sure that it's tightened
Does
up.
Kristi, do you go to the meetings? Is she supposed to be going to the
Going to
meetings?
those?
Well, maybe that would be the solution, is send Kristi to them.
Yeah,
they
'Cause
used
then
to
she could-
always go.
Yeah,
yeah.
and Pat was refusing to go.
Yeah, the
So we tied out of the house.
CAO always used to go and then bring it back.
Yeah, so maybe we should do that.
It's only once a
it doesn't
month.
nearly have the depth that it used to either though, right?
No, it's not, so,
So to bring
But
you,
still, we need a record of the meetings,
yes.
the minutes.
she has been doing it's brief because there's not a lot there, right?
Yeah.
But personal opinion, it hardly justifies wasting Kristi's evening and time driving there and back for what are essentially very light, maybe every third one for, I don't know. whatever, we can discuss it after.
Put it on the radar as we should figure out some sort of plan. Any other questions? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 4.4, bank reconciliation financial reports. An updated version of the expense report is attached to the minutes, or to the agenda, I should say. Not terrible much change in there. You're welcome to take a peek through it on your leisure. I was just asked to come to the meeting every time so that we can always see kind of the latest of where we're at. So there's not really any bad news in there right now. Not a lot of great news either, but we're now first week of October gone. So really we're into the final quarter. So if you're thinking to yourself about where some of those budget numbers are at for spending, and also thinking a little bit, I see places like the museum and such, we haven't dealt with that yet, so we'll at some point get those on the list, of the other halls and such to work with. But I'll see when Lois is feeling a little better, we'll take a run through some of those lines and just see where we're at.
Are we getting new gravel crush to Campbell's concerned?
Campbell's promised about 10 days till they're there. They say they're willing to crush in the winter, it's not a problem, they'll do whatever we want. I went to see Mr. Cook yesterday, unfortunately Mr. Cook is unavailable.
No, you didn't.
Not for crushing, unavailable for visiting.
Oh.
So I'm still hopeful that he's going to crush as well. Last time I saw him 8 weeks ago, he said within a day or two he'd be crushing out there. He isn't yet. I did speak to some of his staff that were there that maybe didn't know the party line, and they gave it more realistic timeline of a little while yet.
Oh, okay.
So,
Nelson River is just about done over there.
they had 1,000 yards of asphalt left to do yesterday, and they have some base to do along the sides yet.
On the shoulders.
Yeah, and the base still isn't crushed.
Oh, I never used
So they're
that.
live crushing that base right now because they're so far
24/7.
out.
Those guys don't fool around.
No, they don't.
What did you do?
They must have
Oh, I
to
had
do
to go back.
the curves by Pine River yet, or the shoulder.
Oh,
on the curves, I think.
Yeah, some of them
They
see
need
this
to
goes
get
off.
a 3-inch lift on there, so.
Yeah. So once they get that done, hopefully that crusher will then start moving to someplace where we can make some use of it. But,
That 10,000 that Barry Campbell was gonna do, is that what you and Byron were just talking about?
Yeah. He's going out to the cane pit.
Oh, I
To
thought
crush
he
there.
I thought he was gonna do the Birch River.
He does not wish to crush in Birch River,
Okay.
but he's gonna go to cane pit, so at least get some on the ground there. And then we're gonna see, I'm hoping to talk Cook into Birch River yet. They seem to like it, so okay, then let's go do some up there.
That's got too much overburden, that's the reason he doesn't.
Yeah.
How did they make out in Alpine? Did they find more gravel down there? or-
So they found not crushed gravel, but they found some pit run that was pretty nice. They've been using that a bunch of places. It's got some little rocks in it, but there's not boulders, it's just little guys.
Yeah.
So they've used it in some holes, they've used it in some, I don't know how to, farm access type roads where really all you're doing is going to one field. So they've used quite a bit of that up. They've got, I don't know if they said 1,000 yards or so they've used of that.
They tried some over by the cement plant on the north end of it, right by Sheldon Ronnquist's corner.
Okay,
Just two belly dumps side by side. They went to try and get the washboard out of there, but it's magnifying the washboard.
oh, well,
So
oops,
it's likely not the solution.
No.
Chad was just going to try it and see what,
yeah, what happened.
I said go for it, try something, but it's,
Okay. Chad and I talked a little bit about maybe also seeing if Campbell wanted to drop by Alpine for a while. What's Chad's feeling? Has he found enough gravel to be worth crushing there? Do some few thousand yards at least at Alpine.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully by the time we're here in 2 weeks, we'll have some actual news on something happening because it's kind of sucky to be out of gravel this long.
And the weather's nice.
I know. Anything else on this financial report? We'll leave it with you then, and as always, ask questions whenever you like.
I see that first line, we're gonna have to back off.
I asked that question.
Oh, yes. Right. Yeah, we're getting kind of tight there. Aren't we? The committee meeting still has a bit of space, but yeah, it's Aye.
Just go back off on the committee meetings, it'll all balance, so.
Okay, moving to 5, well actually before we get to 5.1, so we mentioned Chad. Chad did text me a bit of a Public Works report. So let's talk Public Works for a moment. Short but sweet. We're still scrubbing. Hoe and the skid steer are both up north. Chris's grader loaded today going to the city. You weren't here, but it broke a transmission, so it's warranty, so it's off it goes. The Ford tractor is back in the north one. It's cutting grass with a 10-foot mower. John Deere's back in the south. The rotating guys are on mowing. The gearbox on the 15-foot blew apart a second time. They put it back together. It seems to be good. Might be too hard on it up in the north, so we shouldn't ever use anything equipment in Ward 6 again.
What?
Sounds about right. Sounds about
I
right.
think he added that last part.
That's a footnote.
I think Bill Gade added that.
Okay.
Reeve report.
Okay in 5, but not 6.
Yeah, wait.
The heater in the water plant needs some work, as well as the heater in the Swan shop. We've tested them. Water plant heater does not work right now. They were out and saw the parts that are needed, so we're gonna fix that. Swan shop heater needs a part as well, so we're gonna get that ready before it gets cold. We had Swan the Paw out there for both of those.
I would just like to say that 15-foot mower is the real thing. There's lots of places that with the 10-foot, you leave 2-foot strip, 3-foot strip, it doesn't get everything that pass. But if it was a 15-foot, you'd make the whole pass. It does work good. I'd highly recommend a 15-footer.
Are we cutting from the field side too?
No, they're still doing roadside. Still doing roadside. But, yeah.
I was gonna try and talk them into, once it freezes, take the skid steer out and do some of those willows. Because like in the summertime when the willows are all stringy, it sucks. But when they're frozen,
Yeah.
I bet that thing would motor through those,
Yeah.
just smash them, right? Because they'd be brittle. I wonder if we wouldn't get a bunch done. Like we do miles a day with that. Just driving along the backside doing some of those.
Yeah.
Okay, to 5.1 we go. This is bylaw time. Be it resolved that bylaw number 0113-24 being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to prescribe certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections be read a second time this 8th day of October 2024. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. So we gave this first reading last time when you were away, Councillor Neely. The only changes in this bylaw are to the amounts for the campaign expense limits. Do you want me to go through all the reasons for why?
No, inflation, it's quite a jump, like 500% for councillors, right?
So the reasoning was that the original limits prescribed are contained in the act, and they're the limits for individuals to contribute to a campaign. So if you want to give money to someone that's running for council, you can give them a maximum of $1,500. So those are the limits that made it into the bylaw, instead of it being set as what made sense for the area. So the thought here was this was basically a couple bucks a person for Reeve, a little bit more for councillors.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Whereas the old ones, it was 1,500 and 750, but those were, you can find those numbers in the act, but they relate to how much you can give. So you don't have to spend this, obviously.
No.
But if you do spend this, under the old numbers, you can just pay for your old campaign that was done. But if you decide you want to spend $5,000, you can put in a maximum of $1,500
Yourself.
yourself.
The rest
But then
has to be,
other people would have to be fundraiser or donating. Now that could be your wife or your kid,
I doubt it.
but you would have to, properly
Don't
follow
she would
the
give you money
paperwork.
for that. It's fine. I
That's-
doubt any of
She moved pretty quick,
any
eh?
of our significant others would give us money for that.
Maybe
True
your worst
story.
enemy would give you money for that. That's where the idea for the numbers came from. And we kind of started with head of council as being a couple bucks a voter, because the old head of council amount, you couldn't buy enough gas to drive around here to see everybody.
Yeah.
And then we did a councillor half. of what the other one had been.
Yeah, it's more in line with the day, you know, how things are.
Any other discussion? Councillor Burick?
Just like to ask a question, like these amounts are election by ward system.
Yes.
What happens, say, before next election, if we pass a resolution at election at large?
So if we were to do that, we wouldn't have to change anything. We could leave councillors limited to 2,500. If we wanted to make a change so the councillors could spend more, so cast our mind for a moment, we're at large. So councillors drive all over the whole area too. It might make sense to go to the same amount as Reeve.
Right.
If we were to cross that bridge, we would have to do that. I have no idea, I don't know if we've ever discussed here the idea of changing. If we wanted to change from wards to at large or different wards or anything, we must do it 6 months before the election. It has to be done,
Right.
not started talking about.
Right.
So if there's serious talk here amongst us about doing that, we should know now.
Because
we
we were-
had a year to get it
We
done.
were at large at one time. I think it was amalgamation. When amalgamation took over, we were at large. And then went back to the ward system. But isn't it by the provincial act, they do recommend at large? And we chose to go,
They recommend, but it's not required, it's should, not shall.
right, right.
What's the thoughts around the room? Just curious, is there people that are interested in changing what we have? Either going to at-large or going to different wards? I know at one time I flippantly said we should just run the wards up and down, and then we'd all have some of the north, and Brian wouldn't be able to hold it over us.
Well, it's just that we get elected by the ward system, but then after the election, we're councillors for the whole Swan, for the whole municipality, like Reeve, eh? Like,
So I have thoughts, like I have pondered this many times. Elected at large probably is better in some ways. Say for example, you have 10 people want to be on council. In theory, elected at large, the best 6 get seats. You know, and that's great. You run the risk, and I think the fear was here when it changed from at large back to wards, you run the risk that what if they all live within 1 mile of Swan River? Or 1 mile of Manitoba? That's possible too, right? You may have a big area of the municipality that thinks, oh, I don't have anyone that really represents me because they're all from some other place. As far as, you know, voting at the table and such, we all do our best, I think, to represent everybody. But is there always going to be in the back of your mind the knowledge that you only have to appeal to the voters in your ward? Sure there is, we're all human, right? If you know that you're doing something that's gonna really upset the north, but you're from Bonito, doesn't matter as much as if you're from the north and upsetting the north. You know, I would hope we never do that, but it's human nature, it's gonna be in the back of your mind.
We're supposed to have the best interest of the municipality as a whole, even though we have a ward system.
Absolutely,
I know people aren't perfect, but that's
that's the goal.
what we're supposed to do.
Now, the down point of it, you know, if we're at wards like we are, and you have 2 really good people running the same ward, one of them's not here, you know, but you also don't have to try to get to every single house in the entire municipality. You don't have to try, like, if you're from where you're from, it's kind of tough in Bonito. You know, people don't know you as well, they aren't necessarily making an informed choice. The wards give you somewhat of a better view because it's the local people in that area that kind of know you, deciding, hey, good, bad, what should we do? There's pros for both, and there's some big cons for both. There's no perfect system.
One thing we did here when we did that was the ratepayers, or, well, I don't know who to phone. You know, they're so used, nobody likes change, right? So I guess it's a matter of training everybody if we were to ever do that again. Like, what about in the city? They have wards in the city of Winnipeg, don't they?
They sure do.
I mean,
It's just a question I asked, like I just asked if the monetary amount would change. Because like, the councillor at large would cover the same area as the Reeve.
What do you think, just round the table quick, is there any interest in changing from what we have now to something else?
Could we have some time to think about it?
You could.
Because I just brought it up, like,
No,
I just,
I'm just
Are we
curious.
partially at large right now? Like,
After
I
election,
don't,
yeah.
I don't live in Ward 1. Mr. McGregor doesn't live in his ward. Do you live in your ward?
yep.
Carrie doesn't?
I
I
live
do.
on the very edge.
I do.
So,
Well, that's-
yeah, that's what me too. I'm on the very edge. I mean, if I walk for 10 minutes, I'm in Ward 1, but You know, so I mean, we're kind of at large right now, aren't we? But only we represent the ward though, right?
Yeah. And we're not supposed to represent the wards.
No,
The
we're
election's
supposed
over,
to.
we're not supposed to. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just that I'm so used to the ward system that if somebody calls me from another ward, sure, I should be there, but I say, he's your counselor, call him. Or
Well,
he's your
yes,
counselor, call him. Like, I don't feel like I'm intruding in your area with the ward system, but if it was at large, well, we are all over. Somebody called me from Benito, not saying I travel to Benito, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't say, well, call Brad Kushniryk or something, but, well,
Like for the little while it was at large, I think there was some times it was a little confusing for some people, but certainly if someone called you, you wouldn't necessarily drive all the way to
No.
the receipt. You'd say, hey, somebody's close to Benito, can you go check that out? So, and to some extent, we do that now a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was first elected, I was
And we
at large.
we did get
I didn't
rid
find it
of
much
board
different.
appropriations and stuff, you know, where,
Yeah, it's not like it was before.
Yeah, we don't have a set amount to spend.
That's right.
And that's how the ward system used to work.
Yeah.
But when I was at,
it was
like
based
first
on
elected,
number
it
of
was at
miles of
large.
gravel road.
Yeah, and it's not like
You
that.
know, I had the highest or second highest population when that was in effect years ago. And I had the smallest budget. I had 35, everybody else had 90 or 100,000, you know.
well, in my area, I had the worst budget.
You know,
Oh,
I had the
yeah,
I had the biggest ward, the busiest ward. Pioneer Elevator was in Ward 6, and I got just as much as Alpine.
You got 85,000.
Yeah, but I've got just as much as Alpine, where there's hardly no traffic.
No, he got more than you, because he got more gravel miles.
But it wasn't fair that way, and we did adjust. I did get a little
There
more
was
time.
times, yeah.
Because, but no, can we think about it, and
Oh,
maybe,
absolutely.
like you say, 6 months, we've got 2 years yet. But
So I'm leaving it with you. If somebody wants a change, come back here and say, you know what, I'd like to talk about a change. And if you decide you don't want to change, it just stays as it is.
Because I'd like maybe to ask people too as well.
Sure.
I'd ask somebody in Benito if they want to vote for me.
See, the system we have now works fine as long as everybody's reasonable, let's say, okay? Like if you need something in your ward and I'm saying, no, I'm not giving Brian nothing, well then I'm not very reasonable, you know? But I'm not giving you everything either, okay? But you know what I mean, like as long as the council is reasonable about things, then it
Do you
works just
realize
fine.
we're coming up on 2 years and we're all still speaking to each other?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, are kind of speaking to each other.
Brian keeps asking for stuff in Ward 6, and I ain't talking to him next time.
Yeah. Well, finally.
Just saying.
Finally
Just don't
getting
listen.
I'm just
something in Ward
saying.
6 now.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion that might actually relate to the resolution on the table?
Squirrel.
Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.2 on the agenda. This is third reading, so this will be a recorded vote tonight. Be it resolved that bylaw number 0113-24, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to prescribe certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections, shall be read a third time this 8th day of October 2024, and be signed by the Reeve and signed and sealed by the Chief Administrative Officer. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on the bylaw? Any changes anybody wishes to see? Going once, going twice. Let me get this vote set up here. So recorded vote tonight. I'm going to mark Councillor McGregor as absent. Everybody else that's here, with those voting yes, please give me a show of hands. That looks pretty easy tonight. I see 6 yeses, 1 absent. We'll call that 6-0 and 1 not here, and the resolution is carried. (5.3) Saturday, 2024. Councillor Zbirun has been on a fact-finding mission.
They said they would do something for Saturday, but Canada Day is up for grabs.
Okay. Do they want any help for Saturday? Did they?
They
talk-
never said nothing.
Okay. Shall we give them a little bit of time and see if they
Yeah,
want to?
we contact them. They're waiting for everybody to finish
For sure.
their fall work and everything before they call a meeting and
So if you could share with them that if they need some help, let us know.
Yep.
And maybe we could figure out something we could do for them.
Sure. Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Let's go to 5-4, Canada Day 2025. You already know the answer. Canada Day is up for grabs. We had this on the agenda last time around. Obviously, it's not as pressing as Santa Day, but the grant applications for Canada Day are due in January. So we need to start giving some discussion to what, if anything, does council wish to take this on? Do we wish to look for some people to do it? What could we do? Obviously, we used to have Canada Day in Benito. It was quite a nice event. Last year we did for this year. Is there an interest in doing something? We're gonna go around the table and get some thoughts, starting with Councillor Kushniryk.
I mean, we can apply and not use it, right? May as well apply if it's out there, and if it falls apart, it falls apart.
It's a few $100. It won't be a lot. It'd be a few $100 to buy some flags and,
Fireworks sometimes.
yeah, fireworks or something.
Fireworks and that.
Yeah. The fireworks would be nice to have regardless if anything else happens that day. With so much going on, absolutely every little town has something. It seems like our June 1st has become a day that we should focus on more than Canada Day.
July 1st or June?
No, June. The townwide garage sale has so many people and potential to grow so much more. Nobody's going anywhere that day, so they all come to us, right? So you should capitalize on that rather than try and take a tiny, tiny smidgen of a pie. I think on Canada Day, if we don't have the people to run it.
Councillor Blosha, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's just finding the volunteers to run it. That's not an easy task anymore. And lots of people don't stay in town for Canada Day. If it's a long weekend, if it's on a Monday, they don't. If it's on a Tuesday, well, you work both days before and after.
Yeah, this time it is a Tuesday.
Yeah, and it's not a good,
Usually they're a
Fine.
little better attended when they're Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday because people don't leave town as far.
true.
But
Long
it's,
weekends are not.
it's hard on the volunteers when it's work the day before and work the day after.
And I'm sure that's why the rec center doesn't take it on. Like, they just don't have the help.
Councillor Burick,
I'd say go out all the way.
go out all the way. Can you define what you mean a little bit more so we understand?
Gee, sounds like we're leaving town.
I think he means go all out.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
what I.
He's a little
Go.
twisted.
No,
Everything in the north.
I'd be in support of it.
Councillor Zbirun, what are your thoughts?
Find somebody to do it. I think.
Councillor Neely?
Help them as much as we can, but find somebody to do it.
I'm on the fence on this one. I'm not quite sure what to say here. Everybody seems to be in agreement.
If you'd had to speak first, what would you say?
What are you talking about? But you're talking Benito, to have something in Benito and Canada. Well, it sounds like there's not enough people to volunteer to do the help anymore. The younger generation has been taught to do that, I guess.
So I heard the fireworks get mentioned. I don't know that the grants would move around, but would it be like, I've gone to the fireworks in Swan for many years, and I can't then get to the Benito ones. There's no way to do both, either one or the other. And a lot of people go to Swan River. So should we look at the June 1st thing? It wouldn't always be June 1st. It's the first Saturday or something, I assume. However they figured
I
that out.
don't think it was June 1st. It was wasn't it?
It was the 10th or something.
Yeah,
it was-
It was the middle.
The June thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Should we look to, like, if we're gonna do something like that, should we look to supporting that day more?
I personally think so. It was busy. Like, it was a lot of people in town. We don't get that for Canada Day. I haven't ever seen it. Not in a lot of years, I shouldn't say ever, but a lot of years.
I just don't know if, like, every year, if those same people would be in the sale again, because you know how it is. Well, you don't accumulate that much stuff every
No.
year. That was an amazing amount.
You might not.
And I know some said they weren't gonna do it again because it was so much work, but I don't know. Like, that was an amazing amount of people, yes, but
There's a lot of people.
you can't guarantee the weather either, and that's another thing. We had good weather.
There's a lot of people in the country that can't hold a garage sale ever.
Mhm.
And you could look to maybe in the hall.
Oh, but yes,
You could be set-
exactly.
renting tables out there, right? You could fill
They-
that place up. with
That would be
tables.
really
They had
good.
talked about going down by the post office, with just tables for vendors or whatever, but they just, by the time they thought, they didn't realize it was gonna be as big as it was too late.
Yeah, actually Grandview does that every year. They open up their rink, and in the rink park, they have a huge sale. And that actually is donations towards their rec center, actually, and it's huge.
Yeah, you can make a whole day of it,
Yeah.
because nobody has anywhere to go. It really worked well.
But like you said, you
I
could
guess
also
I
rent
guess you
tables.
could put feelers out and say who, book your tables, in advance, eh?
Yeah,
And then you would
if
see
there's
how much interest is coming.
interest. Okay, so I think we will look into what the grants for Canada Day say. Exactly. If they say it has to be that day, what the rules are, if they're 50/50, if they're 100%, we'll give some look to that, so we
Yeah.
don't miss something and regret it later that we didn't do.
And can we twist it? And I mean, it's only a couple weeks off, they could be our Canada Day
Well,
fireworks.
I think we'll look into that. That's what we're gonna do, is could
Yeah.
we celebrate an alternate date? Could that grant be made to be $500 towards something on that day? And maybe not fireworks, maybe a big pancake breakfast or something, what could be done? Okay, so I think that's good direction for us and certainly for the folks that worry about such things to worry about it some more and talk to some more people. If it pleases council, let's go to 5.5, the RCMP report for September. Very big amount of numbers here. The September update numbers: 10 provincial traffic offenses, 3 traffic accidents, 3 warnings, criminal code complaints. We had crimes against property, 2 break and enters, 6 common police activities, for a total of 25 calls for service in Swan Valley West in September. That is for your information. Any discussion or questions on that? Let's go to 5.6. Be it resolved, the Animal Control Officer report for the month of September be received and approved for payment. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the Animal Control Officer report is attached.
Busy.
Very busy. So there's some concerns about a dog bite. Did rabies, were recommended for rabies shots. I don't know if they did them or not. Talked to the owners of the dogs. Looks like there's some agreement there. Complaint of dogs at large in Kenville. We talked about that particular complaint in camera, I believe, at our last meeting. So Councillor Neely, hit us up in camera if you want the Coles Rose version of that. Looks like most of, I guess on the 17th we get into some new stuff. No, it's all the same one really. Yeah, that was all on camera. Any other discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 5.7, culvert placement. There's a map attached. This is Mr. Tibble's property, and we're looking for some advice from the senators around the table. What's your recollection of this property? There is a road that is not on a road allowance that has a culvert that's collapsed. Mr. Tibble feels that's our culvert and we need to replace it. The argument is that that road provides access to the other quarter that there's no road to. So it comes down and around and goes across the creek and gets to the other quarter that there's no road built to at all. So does anyone have recollection? We can find no record of an agreement, a plan, and anything.
You said Tibble, which Tibble is it?
Scott.
And who-
Whereabouts is that?
Where's that from his yard?
So this is straight north of his yard.
And
You go
there's a
through
road
his
allowance that
yard
goes this way.
and then down across the
But it
slope.
runs
Who
all
built
the
that
big
road?
ravines, so you can't get
He
anywhere.
says we
The
did.
only way.
We
to
built
get
the
is this
road.
way.
He claims it's ours.
And he says that years ago, there was a verbal agreement with him and council, and they came and put this in, and now it's collapsed and you can't get through.
So my first reaction was I checked for road allowance. It's not on a road allowance. There's no agreement. So the typical view from the office would be not our problem. But when you look at it, there's a full quarter of land that is totally landlocked. This is the only access to it. So it's entirely plausible that as a cheaper solution than building a half-mile of road to get there, that this is what was done instead. So he's probably right.
He
This
probably
was
is
his
right.
old agreement. So I just want to bring it here before we go dig up this culvert and put a new one in, and you all say, why did you do that?
Well, I'd say if it's,
I don't
we
even
did
think it's
that and
big,
he,
is it?
No, it's not very.
Like, it's almost half a culvert.
and if he needs access, I'd say do it.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to-
that's his access, that we,
Does he want us to install it too? or-
well, yeah,
Yeah.
cause that's, I think, who did it in the first place.
But I wanted to come here so we all heard the story and understood what was going on before this happened. But if there's no objections to it, Public Works will carry out the work and get it done. While we're talking culverts for just a moment, some work is continuing on, registration is continuing too. Mr. Tomsky was supposed to be here last week? Friday, to help us with some of that. He wasn't able to make it. So some culverts have been registered, some are in pending status. We've got some stuff we're working on there with them, but we are continuing on with those registrations to get them done. There's a couple, well, there's one that may have to be a license instead of registration. We thought it was just registered, but it might actually need the license, but we'll work through that as well. But Mr. Tomsky's been to that particular site already and gave verbal approval to it. But then when the details came out, it may be that we have to just do a license and get it approved, but work continues on that. 5.8, there's a letter attached. Now the letter itself is set to private at this moment unless we change our mind. This is to Reeve and Council, Swan Valley West. It's from the minister. So it's a very long letter, a few points to it. He has concerns about our bylaw 112424. That's the bylaw we passed last time around. It amended existing zoning on a transitional basis. The minister's concern is that the particular portions of the bylaw that refer to zoning, while we thought that was a minor amendment, they don't see it that way. So they feel that we must hold a public hearing on those portions of the bylaw. So there's shalls and shoulds in this letter. The shall is we shall hold a public hearing on that bylaw, the zoning portions of it. So this isn't a discussion, we will do it or the minister will spank us. So to do that, we must rescind something. We have prepared a notice of motion for tonight. The simplest solution, I believe, is to rescind third reading of the bylaw, so it's not passed. And then we have some decisions to make. We could go to public hearing on the whole bylaw and wait for that process to play out. Or we could strip out of the bylaw the zoning part of it, which is section 1 of the bylaw, pass the rest of it as third reading, so it's still in effect. It would only be out of effect for a few minutes at council. And then take that zoning portion and put it into a new bylaw number and hold a public hearing just on that part of it. That's probably the simplest. But you're welcome to have some input on what we should do. The should part of this letter is that we should be a lot more caring to people and we should not restrict anything because we should just let people do whatever they want with needles. But it doesn't say shall for that part. You'll see very next is PMH Town Hall for this week. So they are coming to talk to us. You'll notice the material attached to the agenda. It's also attached in private view. It looks a lot like an application to distribute needles in our municipality. It's all of the things they will do for us to make sure that needles are not laying all over the ground. So we have a meeting scheduled with them. We'll get to that in 5-9. But specific to this letter, does anyone have thoughts, want to discuss? We can take this in camera as well and discuss it there if you're feeling uncomfortable discussing it here. The letter isn't necessarily private, but we didn't share it yet just because of the content. We didn't know where council wanted to go with it. Thoughts? I don't think there's really a reason it would necessarily qualify for in camera. So it would be better if there's to be discussion for it to be in the open, but it's up to you folks.
So the zoning part that we'd take out, not take out, but yes, we'd take out
Take out of
essentially,
that bylaw.
is the hotel part.
The
Like,
hotel and the to build a homeless shelter part. That's the part that requires a public hearing according to the minister. The part that says thou shalt not distribute, that isn't zoning. There's two parts to that bylaw. There's the second part that isn't zoning, the first part that is. It could be, I don't know, where this meeting will go on Thursday. My understanding from speaking to the mayor is that the province of Manitoba has become extremely interested in resolving this problem. In a way that I think they're wanting to resolve it in a way that they don't have regulation by the municipalities. Because in the last several days, there are no longer just 2 municipalities talking about banning needles in the province. There's very quickly getting to be a lot more. And the province, no one here wants to ban needles. No one in the whole province wants to ban needles. We all want to not have sharp needles laying on the ground where our kids play. So the goal isn't banning needles. The goal is figuring a plan that everybody's looked after and everybody's safe. And so if that plan is worked out without banning needles, great. The problem isn't needles, it's the problem of needles laying all over the place. So we may need to, depending on what we hear Thursday, and that meeting will set the tone, right? If they walk in Thursday and say, well, we're just gonna do what we feel like, I might know council's reaction. If they walk in and say, let's work together and solve this problem, you know,
How long, if we rescind it, how long can it sit on second reading?
for at least a year.
So that gives us kind of probationary time to,
Well, and so to be clear, we can't rescind it tonight. So the most we can do tonight is give
The
notice of
motion that's
motion,
coming
then
next
2 weeks from
To
now,
rescind next
we'll
meeting.
rescind it.
Unless we call a special meeting.
Right. No,
No.
no. Because it's rescinding a motion, it has to be a notice period from one regular meeting to the next regular meeting.
Right.
So it has to be the 2 weeks. And that, the idea is that, you know, if someone's planning to be away, they have 2 weeks to reorganize their life to make sure they're here that night to talk about it. So yeah, it has to be from now until the next meeting. So we can, ultimately, we don't have to make these decisions until next meeting, but we should be coming up with a plan so we're not sitting here 2 weeks from now saying, oh, now what are we gonna do?
So they don't want us to be able to tell somebody what they can do when they buy a piece of property.
We do that with the zoning bylaw. What they're saying is they don't consider this a minor amendment. If it was just, I guess in their view, a minor amendment is correcting the word to the, or it to whereas anything that actually changes the use, it begs the question how we could change the zoning bylaw for the fire hall. Because we basically did the same for this as we did to build that fire hall. But because this caught some attention, it was found out it was done wrong. So was the fire hall also done wrong? Water under the bridge. But specific to this, because we are further restricting what you can do with some properties, we're saying you can't build a homeless shelter anywhere unless we give permission, they're saying we must hold a public hearing. That public hearing could be here, it could be in Benito. If we hold a public hearing and more than 25 people that are voters in our municipality registered a written objection to what we're suggesting, we either have to change it to something they're okay with, or we end up at municipal board to have a hearing. But there would certainly be an opportunity, and I know your concerns were a lot with the hotel. Maybe we take that part out, if that's what resolves it, so everybody's happy with it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
My
We can do
concern,
anything as long as we talk about it.
my concern is if somebody buys a piece of property, that we have the right to tell them what they can do with that property. Whether it be somebody buys a hotel, well, we want them to have a hotel, have a bar, have a cafe, you know, there. But I mean, it's not gonna happen because, well, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, it's the same thing as if somebody buys a house that used to be a Texaco service station. Do we make them put it back to that? Because Benito needed one.
you're not gonna like my answer.
Well,
Technically, the zoning bylaw does. Because if it's zoned commercial right now, it can't be a house. Without us first changing the zoning. So the zoning bylaw does, by definition, tells you what you can do and can't do with certain pieces of land. This is different than what it says now. You know, and I think a lot of the concern is it being different than what it says before. So Half yes, half no. Like that hotel right now is commercial property. So there's a list of things in the zoning bylaw you're allowed to do with commercial property, and there's a list of things you're not allowed to do with that property.
So then why do we need this then?
Well, this particular thing, what it changed was, it further restricted some of those commercial uses. So as it sat, one of the valid commercial uses was a homeless shelter. And this made it so you couldn't do that unless you spoke to us first. It made it conditional use instead of permitted. In zoning, we have, there's, for any activity, so say for example, having a herd of cattle. In an agriculture zone, that's a permitted use. You need to ask us no permission. If you have land that's agriculture, you can have cattle on it. If you have land that is rural residential, which is what we have around Swan River, quite a bit of it, RR15, RR5, RR2, there it's not permitted. So there's an N. You may not have a herd of cattle. And this council can't give you permission to have them. But for some things, one horse on that RR land, it's permitted to have one horse, but not 10. Some things are conditional. It's a good example of a conditional one. An auto yard, a wrecker scrap yard. And that I think is listed as conditional. So if you want to have a scrap yard somewhere in the municipality, you first have to come here and ask permission for it. If we say, yeah, that'll be okay, it's not going to bother the neighbors, it's not going to bother the river, it's all good, then we give permission for it. So in the zoning bylaws, this thing, and it's got all of that stuff listed in there for all the different types of property. So what this did was changing that commercial property, being able to say it can't be a homeless shelter, it can't be a soup kitchen, it has to be a hotel or restaurant, someplace you live in, unless you come here for permission first. And it did that more globally for the whole municipality, saying that it can't be a homeless shelter without permission first. So it made it conditional instead of permitted. When I was talking to one of the reporters in Winnipeg that was interviewing us, he says, well, you're not seriously telling me that right now your municipality would allow a homeless shelter anywhere anybody wanted to build one? I said, well, the reality is in most of rural Manitoba, that is true. Right now, the zoning bylaws never considered that. Our zoning bylaws 25 years old. The idea of a homeless shelter is not even in it. You would just call it a multi-family dwelling and get to go for it. Whereas, you know, in Winnipeg and Brandon years ago, they said, well, if you're doing that, we need to talk first. Further thoughts from folks?
This must all come about while I was
You've been
on
away a very
vacation.
long time.
Are we referring to the Bonito Hotel in this matter?
So the bylaw that we have passed did a couple things. Bonito Hotel was referred to specifically with what you could do with it without permission and what you need to ask permission for. And then for the whole municipality, it said that if you're going to build a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen or tier 1 housing, you needed to come here for permission first before you can build it. And then it said in part 2, that's part 1, that's where it needs to have a public hearing. Part 2 said that if you're going to distribute needles, drug supplies, free drugs, you have to come to us and have our permission to distribute them first. And have some sort of plan for picking up used needles, for dealing with the fallout of that. So what we must do tonight is we must, before we're done, give a notice of motion to rescind third reading. We don't have to make those other decisions until 2 weeks from now, but it would be good to have some discussion as time goes on and figure out what we want, so we have the documents prepared for 2 weeks from now, before council wishes.
Quick question, are we all invited to this meeting on Thursday night, or
You
just
sure are.
the council, or?
Every member of every council's invited. In 2 seconds, we're gonna get to that on the agenda, we're gonna talk about more. So, the notice of motion comes later in the meeting. We'll figure that out at break time for who's presenting it, so someone signs the form. And I think we'll move on to 5.9 if everyone's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So the town hall, these letters at the moment are attached in private view. The reason is this is not a public meeting. They might call it a town hall, but they don't want the public there. So it is on Thursday, October 10th, 2 days from now, at 5 p.m. until 6:30 at the Legion Room at the Veterans Community Hall. So that's the back room, that little small one. All members of the 4 councils are invited. I can share that the Minister of Addictions and Homelessness has spoken at length to the Mayor. He shared last night that he was unimpressed with the phone call. He shared more privately with me about it. He has spoken to several senior officials in government. He's spoken to the Premier's assistant. They have all now watched what happened at the Town of Swan River meeting when Harm Reduction did their presentation. They have all generally condemned the presentation that was done there. They say that shouldn't have happened, it shouldn't have been stated that way, and some of the material was incorrect. This meeting is with senior staff. I believe the CAO is attending, but don't quote me on that. Certainly senior health staff, Dr. Fung will be there. And they are coming to try again with convincing us that they have our best interests at heart, and they are picking up the needles. I'm interested to hear what they have to say. You'll notice there's a bunch of material attached here besides that invitation letter, including a poster that indicates that you should not touch the sharp end when you pick up needles.
What's this new needle that they were talking about yesterday?
It's a retractable.
It's not new.
Well,
Been
retractable
known
needle
for-
anyways.
So the retractable needles are used mostly in flu clinics and some hospital settings as well. So we have like the older style is what's being given out for harm reduction. The needle's always there. The retractable ones is you load the syringe, you inject the syringe, and the needle pops inside. So it's single use. You can, with a lot of work, use it a second time. You can pull that needle back out if you really want to. You can make it happen. But if you just use it and drop it on the ground, there's no longer a sharp there because it's pulled inside. So, there's still the risk that a kid opens up the syringe and licks the fentanyl and dies. But there's not a sharp needle. They do cost a little more money. Last night at the meeting, it got pretty heated. So much so that our parents had to tell us to stop. The school division was there, and the school division had to say, okay, seriously, you all, calm yourselves down. There was a couple councillors from the town of Swan River who got a little out of hand last night, going back and forth at each other, and I may have egged them on a little bit.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. The discussion came around to, and it's been recorded today, that there's a feeling by some that non-retractable needles are safer because when you have the sharp needle in the sunlight sterilizes the HIV off of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop the little people from stepping on it.
It also is not the same as was found in several studies that have been done on the topic.
Anyway.
But that was what the discussion went on last night. So I think we should give Prairie Mountain Health benefit of the doubt. It would be good for as many of us to attend as possible so that we hear directly from them instead of a translated version of what they have to say. And then certainly we can have some more discussion on what they're proposing and what they're suggesting. I think it will be a very different meeting than what the town had a few weeks ago where they were basically told that they were a bunch of racists. I
Who
suspect
was that
that
meeting with?
harm reduction came to the town of Swan River Council. And it got a little out of hand.
What time is it, Thursday?
It is
5.
5 o'clock, 5 until 6:30, Legion Room, Veterans Hall.
That's on the south end.
I won't be able to make it.
Right.
And by the time the meeting video comes out, the meeting will be over. But the reason we didn't publicly attach this to the agenda is because there's some concern that community members might storm the meeting if they know when and where it is. So that's why on our agenda that you can see as we're holding this meeting, it doesn't show the date and time. Would be funny, but probably not productive. So, if you can make it, please try to make it. If you don't, obviously we'll be discussing it and
Yeah.
figuring out.
How many distribution places do they have? Just the one on across from Keyshaw?
So
It used to
there's,
be the assessment branch, is it?
well, no doubt there, also on Main Street, at the hospital itself. And then there's also mobile distribution.
Because I know talking to staff at Keyshaw, they're busy picking needles up every day. They're out there.
yesterday morning I went by the chamber office just to check it, and I got 3 off one picnic table. And 2 of them had no caps on them. Which to me seems so easy, just put the cap back on, but it doesn't happen.
I don't understand, do they give them a supply of them, I guess, so many at a time,
The box, so
and let them go?
armful, yeah. And part of the trouble is there's many people now saying that those needles have enough value that if you get your bundle of needles, you can take those to the drug dealer and they'll exchange them for drugs.
Barter system.
Yeah. So, there's no easy answers here. I don't know if you've all seen the media firestorm happening in Winnipeg that the mayor and I have been starring in the last several days, but we've both been on various radio shows and various newspapers, and the response is mixed. Certainly in this area, the majority of people feel we're on the right track. When you get into the city of Winnipeg, they just can't imagine what's happening here because they're like, but what do you mean? All they're doing is giving away needles. Aren't they doing addictions treatment? Aren't they doing all of these other things? No. That's the trouble. If they were doing all of that, maybe we wouldn't have this other issue.
Are they helping or harming? I guess I'm confused.
So, best we can do for right now is say, if you can come, please do. 5:10, future meeting dates. So November 26th is a meeting date for us, as is December 24th. 26th of November falls on AMM conference. Both the CAO and I will be away. December 24th falls on Christmas Eve. And as much as I would love to see you all, I don't know that we want to hold that meeting. What we did last year for this problem was we jigged the meetings around. So we moved that last November one into the first week of December. We moved the December one up, so we did the 1st and 3rd of December. So that would be the 3rd and 17th.
3rd and 17th of December?
Yeah, that's.
But
is
you're
that doable?
moving the November one to the 3rd
And canceling.
the
one.
Christmas
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's normal. Okay, so 3rd and 17th you're proposing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get rid of the 26th and we'll get rid of the 24th. We'll do 3rd and 17th instead, so we'll have 2 instead of 3. Is that workable for everybody?
So we're just here to cancel.
November 26th, moved to December 3rd,
Yes.
and
December.
December 24th, moved up the other way to the 7th, no,
December 24th was just
Yeah,
canceled, but then the
10th
other
is
one,
moved to the 17th and the 24th is canceled.
okay, canceled.
I'd rather leave the 10th
So
one
then we have a
there.
regular one on the 17th.
Yeah, is that what you wanted?
Well, I'd rather leave the
Anything
3rd and the 10th and then give us some time before Christmas at
So do
least.
you want to do 2 in a row, 3rd and 10th?
Yeah, the 3rd and the 10th, do 2 in a row.
Is that workable?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know, I just think,
So
then
leave
give
the
yourself
10th
some
alone?
time. Yeah,
Okay.
That's not too
Is that-
far.
no.
That's not too far from, because the next
because
one
then
is
it's holidays time. Like,
the next one is January
it's-
14th.
Yeah.
well, that's
It's not too
okay.
far?
If there's something in between, we get together.
Yeah, I would just, caution that if we're gonna do the 10th and not after that, there's some possibility you'll see a special meeting by phone or something, just for
Because
some
that's
housekeeping.
that's over a month.
Yeah,
And before the end of the year.
yeah. I'm not gonna jump up and promise that. There's another complicating factor here. Finance is away some of those times because of a medical issue. So there'll be a couple weeks in there that finance is a little limited. So I'm just saying,
And which weeks though?
the beginning.
Oh, the beginning, well,
Yeah.
then, if you want, just then put it on the 17th.
I don't know that since that would be included in it. So like, I'm fine with the 3rd and 10th, but just
I just think,
have in the back of your mind that like on the 30th, we might be having a meeting by phone for 20 minutes just to go
yeah, and
through
I
some
don't mind that
housekeeping.
either, but I just think gives.
You know,
give
because you wouldn't
yourself-
have to be here, so wherever you happen to be, if we get enough of us on the phone together to do the housekeeping stuff. There'd be, any grants that we haven't done, just the stuff that needs to be done. up. And maybe we'll have it done for the 10th. Ideally we do, but if we don't, then it gives us that one more try at it. So 26th to 3rd, 10 stays, 24th is gone. I don't have a resolution prepared for that, but we will get a resolution and we'll bring that back to make it official at some point.
Yeah, 26 moved to the 3rd, okay, go ahead.
The 3rd and the 10th.
3rd and 10th. Correspondence, number 6, I don't see anything under that, so we'll go to number 7, committee reports. We'll start with Councillor Zbirun.
No rural meetings, I just met with Scott that for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Is it?
Councillor Kushniryk. Councillor Blosha.
No, I had no committee meetings.
Councillor Neely.
Nope, just last night, G4/G8, very interesting meeting. It was a long one, I think it was the longest one I've ever been at.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Councillor Burick.
I just had the G4 last night as well, Arma Mountain. Good presentation on the rec center, on the new arena. Good discussion on, we discussed it already, I guess, but yeah, no, it was a good meeting, a long meeting. I was kind of a little disappointed that Minnetonka didn't show up. Nobody from Minnetonka came to the meeting, so it was really a G3, I guess. Yeah, it was a good meeting. I thanked Reeve Byron for hosting it, him and his council and staff. And it was good. Nice to be in Port Sherwood.
Not much left of her.
Not much left, but when I drove in there, I told them they sure keep it clean. Like the village is clean.
Yeah, it
old,
looks good, it's just
everything's clean, but
post office.
But yeah, just the post office and that store. The little store, I guess, is still there.
Really nice school.
And
a nice school.
And a very nice little thrift store.
Nice school too. There could be a lot of potential there for prison.
Well, that's what we need. We need a penitentiary.
Penitentiary that's 23 miles from Swan,
That
so
would
it'd be just
really
perfect.
boost the economy.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great potential there, yeah. Just some renovations but yeah, no, it was good. Good meeting,
Can't
let's
have
see.
cinder block walls, so they'll punch right through. That'll probably gotta be solid cement.
That's
Anything else,
it. No,
Council?
that was it, just the G4.
I'll keep that jail idea under advisement. Let's talk G8 for a bit. So we did have a presentation last night from the Arena Committee, so that would be Legacy Committee. Both Councillor Boychuk and the committee themselves spoke. They've fundraised a little over $83,000 so far towards the new arena. That's of like private donor type money from fundraisers. There's the 6 point whatever million the town has committed. Half of that is a grant, half of that's from the town. They showed us last night 2 options for layout to the arena. They indicate those options will be made publicly available in the coming weeks so everybody can see them. The difference between the 2 options was in the seating. So one of them, I don't know if you've seen the Cote Arena, the seats come only down part way, and the other one, the seats would come all the way to the ground like they do in the current arena. In both options, the seating capacity is about the same as the current rink, and then there's standing room capacity after that for little bar stool tables and such. Both options are otherwise the same, so I'll only cover off the other high points. It's connected to the pool through the connection area that was supposed to go to something at some point. The drawings we saw, you enter the pool doors and go through the pool reception area to get to the rink. I don't know if I just misunderstood the drawings, but that's what was indicated on them, so there might be some
Must be
changes
a
to
wall
that.
between there or something.
Well, it's like you go into the hallway, you go down the hall, now you're in the rink. But I don't know if there's a way to get into the rink without going into the pool area first. Because you walk into the pool, you're in that big reception area. You'd have to go in there to get to the rink. But then there's another one of those in the rink, so it's a little confusing.
And a walking track too, right?
Walking track on top.
Second floor. Yeah.
No. The elevation is higher on the east end of the rink. So where the concession and everything is, you're 4 feet higher than the ice surface. So when you're looking out from there, you're looking over the boards straight into the ice instead of looking at boards for a while first, which is kind of neat. It's got concession area. It has community meeting rooms in there to hold whatever sorts of events. It has a garage for some of the town vehicles to stay warm. It looks a lot like a rink.
Yeah, it's pretty nice design.
Yes. They have some actual conceptual like 3D models of the inside so you can see what it would look like. It's a pretty nice looking rink. They spoke about a grant they're currently applying for. So it's a green building grant from the federal government. It requires them to do a lot of hoop jumping to be carbon neutral. But they are applying for it. They're hoping to have that grant application in by the 14th of this month. The grant would provide for up to a share of a $25 million building. We did ask questions about the current price tag of the building. There was not a firm answer, so as best I could translate, they said, well, we've seen what we get for $15 to $18 million in other communities. And if you look at these plans, this is probably a $20 million building, but there's some things we have to do to make it be green enough to qualify for that grant. So it would be hard to imagine we keep it to 20 million and still be able to apply for the grant. They will have a price attached to it by the time that grant application goes in on the 14th.
But they did mention as long as they're green ready,
Green ready.
that means plug it in, you're ready to roll, right? I mean, they got everything set, it's just not,
The one thing they talked about was geothermal, so they put the geothermal field in, but not the unit inside the building necessarily. So, they are hopeful for that grant. They say it's kind of a make or break grant at this time for them. It's the only big enough grant they have to cover off a chunk of it. The math just didn't math last night. They kept talking about how they might only need $2 million. But every time they talked about it, I figured it was $4 million.
it was $4 million.
Because it was like they have 6 and they might get 10, and so they only need 2. But if it's 20 million, that would be 4.
Yeah,
So,
What's a couple million between friends?
I didn't say anything, but I couldn't figure that one out either.
Kristi and I were having these little
I
notes
thought it
back
was
and
just
forth
me, I
too, and
didn't
like,
know that.
I'm sure they're adding that up wrong, but, whatever. More power to, like, you gotta admit, they're pretty excited and they're pretty happy and they're trying pretty hard. We may not always necessarily totally agree with their plans, but they sure have a lot of spirit.
They sure have a lot of volunteers helping too, like.
Everyone that saw that drawing, like, it's a beautiful building. It would be amazing. The only question is, can we pay for it to build it and can we pay for it to run it? I asked about the letter we received. So as you'll recall, we had a letter that if you read between the lines, it said if the other councils don't put money into this, it can't be built or run. It was looking for ongoing funding. So I said, so in your presentation, you kind of said, it doesn't matter if nobody else comes on board. We're still gonna do this, but the letter said if we don't come on board, you can't do it, so which is it? And they said they hope that other people come on board, primarily us in Manitoba, but Mountain as well. But if we don't, they're still going to do it. So it appears like the rink project will be doing its thing with or without
Are
us.
they gonna approach the First Nations too?
That's exactly what they said about their swimming pool too.
Yes.
Then after it's built, got their hand out looking for,
We have historically given some money towards the existing rink. So it's not like it's
Yeah,
something we've
yeah.
never done.
that's right.
And they are of the feeling this rink will be cheaper to run than the current one.
That would have been my question, what's the overhead gonna be on this unit?
I would think realistically, they don't know. They don't know the price tag of the building. I'm sure they don't know yet what it's gonna cost to run it either.
But, in 60 years, insulation factors, all that kind of stuff has really progressed, so I mean, it may be a lot cheaper to operate, I don't know.
And there's also the question of the old rink. There's been all sorts of discussion of it. Does it become an indoor soccer field? That would be quite attractive to a lot of people, but then who would pay for running it? And there's so many questions. Does it get torn down? Does it get sold off to some private thing? Who knows? We just don't know. And they did speak to this new rink. They're definitely wanting to go back to having home and leisure shows and big trade shows in the rink and doing things that we used to see here many years ago. They kind of blamed the lack of floor in the current rink for why those things stopped. But if you check history, they actually stopped before the floor went bad. They stopped for some other reasons. But they are very committed people and they're very gung-ho to make this happen. They're not saying we have to pay, they're not giving it a dollar amount, but I think, to Councillor Zbirun's point, you wonder how it all works without some help.
Well, the capital costs. Well, the town did the pool themselves with, I guess, donations from corporations and so. Like, we never put any money into the capital part of it.
No, just the running of it. So, after that, we talked about municipal committee secretary. And some of your committees may have discussed that a little bit, the idea of having someone that we hire between a bunch of the committees to do the minutes, do the legwork of the committees. Vet board is one of them, Arise is one of them, doctor recruitment is one of them, maybe even some at airport as well, just to have somebody that does stuff. A lot of the discussion was it could be very hard to find someone to do it. But the idea was to see if there was enough for a half-time or full-time job between all of these committees. We discussed possibly hosting it at a chamber, so it wasn't an exactly municipal person, with the eye to things like the museum committee. They might need 3 or 4 hours a month to do their minutes and their bookkeeping a little bit. So we talked about that. The CAO from Mountain volunteered to do some canvassing and see which groups needed and figure out what would be needed, and then see if there's anybody that would be crazy enough to do it. It'd be a lot of evenings. You know, it'd have to be somebody that didn't necessarily want to be at home all the time, and that could be tough to find. We talked about the overage of donated funds to the CT scanner. We talked about it, we talked about it, we talked about it some more, and there was some more talking. Then there was some yelling, which I can't believe there was yelling over that, but we had all the municipalities in the same room. That issue is $132,000 is raised by the community for the CT scanner, and the budget only called for $100,000. So we can make a mountain of almost any molehill. The end result is, the agreement in the room was that medical recruitment will reduce their contribution from 600,000 to 570, whatever that works out to. The valley-wide fundraising will be set at $132,791.12, I think, whatever it was. Then, medical recruitment will set aside about that $32,000 that didn't get spent on this for ancillary equipment for the CT scanner, meaning basically the stroke center. So the things that are needed to convert the hospital would be a full stroke center. So in the end, every dollar that was fundraised by people for the CT scanner will pay directly for the CT scanner. The money that the municipality saved will go towards making us a stroke center, so that no one can ever say, we took their money that was fundraised for this and spent it on that. It will all go to where it was supposed to go. The surplus that's left over will then go to the next project.
Took a long time to get to that point.
I don't see how.
About 30 minutes. Yes. We talked about the meeting schedule. So it was proposed it be the first Monday of January, April, July, and October. And some people thought that was a grand idea until they remembered that that means it would be during Christmas holidays and be during the long weekend of July. So there was no firm decision on that. However, Minnetonka's Bozeman will host a meeting sometime in January. Swan Valley West will host sometime in April. The town of Swan River thinks they'll host one in July, but hopefully that moves to June. And in October, the Arm of Mountain will host a meeting. And then there's this many rules about what happens if you can't host the meeting. We then discussed Medical Services Committee. There's nothing there that you hadn't already heard here. We talked about harm reduction for a while. Councillor Morial brought that up. Specifically this meeting coming up, but a few other things. That's where the real yelling got going. It was quite impressive. There was no real resolution to do anything there other than attend the meeting on Thursday and see what they have to say. We did some roundtable discussion, and the most interesting part of that I have elsewhere in my report. So that was the G8 meeting. Moving on from that, Bonito Hotel. We have received more concerns and complaints on the Bonito Hotel in the last week than I think we have ever had on any property in our lives. And people are very angry. That issue is, someone owns the Bonito Hotel. They rightfully own the Bonito Hotel. It is their building, but they haven't paid the tax on it. So on October 17th at 2 p.m., an auctioneer will say the auction now commences. And when they say those words, that building no longer belongs to that person. It then is in this quasi-state of ownerlessness for a few minutes while the auction is held. And when the gavel bangs and they say sold, somebody else owns that building. Now it may be us, it may be another bidder. What's important to remember is that this time, the person that owns it still owns it. So the concerns relate to the destruction of the Bonito Hotel and the fact that the building is now being stripped of all its useful parts and they're being sold off. because I knew you would all say, wow, that's the Reeves job. I went out to Manitoba and held a meeting with the owner and had a little chat. So I spoke to the salvage expert that is there, salvaging the building. I spoke to the owner and I delivered the message that we have no right to tell you what to do with your building today. We cannot tell you to not touch it, we cannot tell you to not wreck it. But think some things through. There's a lot of people talking about buying that hotel. We know of at least 3 interested parties that have lined up financing to purchase that hotel at auction. And what I know about auctions is if you have 3 people bidding against each other, things tend to get expensive because they all want it. And they all obviously have a number in their mind. So I said, are you aware that if your building sells at tax sale, say for example it sells for $50,000 at tax sale, you get everything else other than what you owe? They were unaware of that. So for the record, if property sells at tax sale, say you owe $1,000 of taxes and you never pay, and that property sells for $10,000, we take the $1,000 you owe and we write you a check for $9,000 and give it to you for the rest of it. We don't keep the extra. It goes to whoever owned it. We only take the tax amount. So where I was going with that with the gentleman was saying, if you do things to this building that makes it worth $0, you might be walking away on a windfall. Because if that was to sell for $50,000, he does not owe that in taxes. And we'd be writing him a check for almost $40,000. But if you burn the building down the night before tax sale, despite the RM because it's going to tax sale, and it sells for nothing, you also get nothing. So that was fairly well received. He promised me he was not going to do anything to that building that reduced its value. My understanding is that all the radiators and boiler are being removed as we speak. But good news-ish, they didn't work anyway, he tells me. So we have nothing to say. This is not us. We've had people swear at our staff. We've had people yell at councillors. We've had people hang up on us. They've told us that we have absolutely no idea how to run a municipality, that we're the stupidest things they've ever seen. But the reality is, it's not our building. It's his building, and he can do whatever he wants with it. And if he manages to destroy that building and walk away on the money he would have got for it because it's destroyed, unfortunately it's his choice and our problem to clean up after, such as tax sale. So, on the tax sale front, I can report that there's been some movement on a couple of the other properties, which is our preference. They just pay their taxes, they keep the property, we don't have to sell it off. So there's been a couple of properties that were kind of priorities for us to think like, this is silly that you have a $400,000 property in tax sale. Some of that's being resolved. So it'll be a much less interesting tax sale than it would have been otherwise. Earlier today, the CAO and I met with Steve, representing the Grader Group. We delivered council's message that you asked us to deliver about the Grader and going on municipal roads. So I know many people out there have been wondering what that answer was. Now that we've shared it with them, we'll share it publicly. Council's decision was that we would decline the offer of help to grade our roads, and that we would look to our own staff to do that grading. Certainly it took us a while to get to that decision, but we did speak to each of our staff. We spoke to a variety of stakeholders in the matter, and the decision affects not only that group, but it also affects some other people who are doing some courtesy grading for us and maybe causing some destruction. So if anyone's terribly interested in more, they'll have to talk to a member of council. I'm sure we'll share a few more details for them. I did also speak to him while he was here about the Vopney crossing. And I indicated that we were having some safety concerns with barricades being moved that blocked that crossing off. And I shared with him the viewpoint of council that if the barricades that can be moved keep being moved and don't get put back, very soon there will be barricades that cannot be moved that will prevent anyone from accessing that area. And I suggested that that might be a conversation that could be had with various different people in the area to talk about safety and to give a long, hard thought to what happens if a 16-year-old that's freshly licensed is out cruising one night at 2 a.m. and they've moved the safety barricades and they end up in the river dead because of it. And I said, this is probably our last time we talk about this before you find an immovable wall blocking people from that river. So here's an opportunity for us to work together on something without having to upset a bunch of people. So we'll see where that goes. He was receptive to that message and certainly felt he might know the people to go talk to about the barricades not being put back. Finally, I was in Beausejour last week for the economic development training. So I'm happy to report I have now completed all modules of economic development officer training. So I have to do the practical exam yet, but it's done remotely. So I'll work through that. But we have a very nearly trained economic development officer just to keep up with what's going on. So doesn't mean I get paid anymore, but boy, is it a feather in my bonnet.
Bonnet. I think it's a cap.
Was it a cap? Oh,
Yeah.
it's a feather in my cap, apparently.
It's a ribbon in your bonnet.
Oh,
Hey, our next new
I just
economic
made up a
development, our next new development officer is right here.
well, we've discussed a little bit before, but we've discussed the rise as well. We have decided not to spend $100,000 a year hiring an economic development officer. And there has been some viewpoint in some areas that doing economic development without somebody that knows how to do economic development is kind of a waste of time. So this is a compromise. Rather than spending $100,000 on someone on the committee took all the training, so that we do have all the basic ideas of how to do it, all the frameworks of how to do it, all the planning, plus all the contacts with the other development officers without spending $100,000 a year. Doesn't mean someday we won't hire somebody else, but we aren't hiring them today.
You'd be happy to do it for 75.
Speak for yourself. So that concludes my report for this evening. Thankfully, you'll notice nothing mentioned about water in Benito. Hasn't it been a quiet 2 weeks? It's been nice.
Good.
Any questions or other discussion on any of that? We will take a break shortly. We're going to be going in camera after that. Tonight we're discussing some personnel matters that relates to the union. We can disclose that Vince has left the operating engineers 987. His last day was Friday. He has decided to move on to a non-union lifestyle. So we are currently without a union representative. They will be providing one to us.
We have one.
Oh, we have one as of now. We were without Friday, but we have one now. They've appointed one during the day, so we do have a new rep that we'll get to know, I'm sure, very well.
When do we start that negotiations and stuff?
They provided notice on Friday of negotiations. So we now have to provide them some details of who works here, what they're being paid, what the current contract is, and then the negotiation dates will get set up. So coming in a month or so, probably. We wanted this done before the end of the year, so hopefully they get on with it. We'll also be discussing, as you may guess from the media coverage, a lawsuit that's been filed against the Municipality of Swan Valley West. So we've got quite a lot of information to share with council that's confidential on that. We may get into a little discussion of some investigation enforcement, so some bylaws, possibly some security stuff. And you'll see on the agenda it shows tree scrubbing. You would wonder how possibly could that be in camera. The answer is it was the wrong tree. So we've got some things to talk about there and see what we can do about that tree.
The wrong tree, I
The
don't
wrong
believe it.
tree. So with that, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. Once everybody's back, we'll go in camera. Moving to 8.1 on the agenda, be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the Municipal Council should meet as a committee to hold a closed meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, investigation or enforcement of an active bylaw and security of armed documents or property. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Any discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Oh, what are you?
I'm in favor.
Okay, that's carried. Coming on the in-camera session, do we have any resolutions arising from in-camera discussions? Hearing none, we'll go to number 9, notice of motion. I do have, for the first time in a long time, a notice of motion I, Councillor Brian Burick, do hereby give written notice that I will, at the next regular meeting of council, introduce a motion to reconsider resolution number 2024-337, dated September 24th, 2024, regarding third reading number 0112-24, signed by Brian Burick. So that notice has been received. The CAO will dutifully schedule that for the next meeting for our reconsideration.
Kristi, you have to date it, I didn't date it.
Is there any other notices of motion to present? We move then to number 10. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 9:22 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, October 24th, 2024. Your arm is getting tired yet? At 7 p.m.
I got longer arms
Oh, sorry, 22nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Neely and seconded by Councillor Blosha.
Let him have it.
And a note, folks,
He's old.
that night is also Board of Revision. And we have received an application, so we will be holding Board of Revision that night.
Just one?
Just one. I believe the CAO will forward to you a little booklet, perhaps, that explains your role as Board of Revision, whatever's we are, members.
Done that before, but
Yeah,
a long,
we
long
just
time.
can't-
Cliff Penner come. One time, many years ago. You were there, right?
Any other discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone, for a good meeting.